just like in business or marketing, where we are, the type of catchphrases, or purple is a better color than green, or all this calculation. Prabhupada didn't do any of that. He just, the order of his spiritual master, you go to the English-speaking countries and spread this knowledge to everyone. That's all. So Prabhupada had not made an analyzation of the area he was going, or who would be there. Prabhupada had not made a study of the youth movement in America before moving to the Lower East Side. He had never even made specific plans to come here amid so many young people. Even to date, this was a phenomenon that began at that time in the late 1950s, early to mid 1960s. Before that, it was just, like immigrants, newly arrived people, families, poverty, very slummy mood. When a particular ethnic group would get it together, they would move out to material prosperity into the suburbs. Then the next group would come in. But all of a sudden, all of these young people, and to date, the East Village, Lower East Side, is a place for young people. And Prabhupada's 26 Second Avenue is there. And on the same block, interestingly enough, by coincidence, is the Bhakti Center, which is right in one of the main places where young people go to have a good time. So the tradition of preaching to young people. One time Prabhupada was speaking at a university, and one older person criticized him. Why are you coming here and speaking only to young people? And Prabhupada's answer, why is it that only young people are coming to the university? Because youth is the time for education. And then Prabhupada gave a caveat: you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Generally speaking, young people are more open. Older people are set in their ways, or they've been conditioned for so long and so heavily by the modes of material nature that it's practically for them. Same as it had been area. like the people seems as if imitating Indian president felt sympathetic singing, and we're watching. Prabhupada explained that there are three platforms: sensual, mental, and intellectual, and above them is the spiritual platform. The chanting of Hare Krishna is on the spiritual platform and is the best process for reviving our eternal, blissful consciousness. So, again, at that recording studio in December of 1966, Prabhupada made an address where he explains this, and we have an on-chanting Hare Krishna pamphlet, which we have hundreds and thousands, and we give them out for free. And that's the first thing that one will read, on chanting Hare Krishna. He invited everyone to attend the meetings at 26 Second Avenue and concluded his brief speech by saying, "Thank you very much, please chant with us." Then he sat down, took the drum, and began another kirtan. 71 years old, chanting without amplification, lead and response for 3+ hours. If it were risky for a 71-year-old man to thump a drum and shout so loud, he would take that risk for Krishna. It was too good to stop. He had come far from Vrindavan, survived the non-Krishna yoga society. His contact on the Upper West Side was an impersonalist, mind yogi. Big bucks, for New Yorkers, just giving money for it. That he had survived the non-Krishna Yoga Society, waited all winter in obscurity. America had waited hundreds of years with no Krishna chanting. No Hare Krishna had come from Henry David Thoreau or Ralph Waldo Emerson's appreciations, though they had poured over English translations of the Gita and the Puranas. And no kirtan had come from Vivekananda famous speech on behalf of Hinduism at the World Parliament of Religion in Chicago in 1893. So now that he had finally had Krishna Bhakti flowing like the Ganges to the sea, it could not stop. In his heart, he felt the infinite will of Lord Chaitanya to deliver the fallen souls. He knew that this was the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his own spiritual master, even though caste-conscious Brahmins, those who think that they are on some earned status because they're born in a certain way. If you look at where India is today, you'll hear a lot of scholarly opinion that there was this caste-conscious Goswamis who led to many of the problems that are there in India today. But that's another subject matter. Caste-conscious Brahmins in India would disapprove of his associating with such untouchables as these drug-mad American meat-eaters and their girlfriends. But Swamiji explained that he was in full accord with the scriptures. The Srimad Bhagavatam had clearly stated that Krishna consciousness should be delivered to all races. Everyone was a spiritual soul, and regardless of birth, they could be brought to the highest spiritual platform. One such caste-conscious person saw two of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. This person was a priest in a famous temple in a holy place, and he saw Prabhupada's disciples, American men, shaved up, wearing saffron cloth, and he was impressed, and he said to them what he thought was something very nice. And he said, "Oh, you're so wonderful. So I bless you that in your next life, you can take birth in India in a Brahmin family." So they were confused. Then they went back to Srila Prabhupada and told him this, and Prabhupada just kind of chuckled. He said, "You go back to him and say that if you are a very nice caste Brahmin doing your deity seva in this life, then in your next life you can take birth in America and be a book distributor." The shoe on the other foot, something like that. Everyone can be brought to the highest platform simply by chanting the holy name. Never mind whatever sinful things they were doing. These people were perfect candidates for Krishna consciousness. Tompkins Square Park was Krishna's plan, and it was also part of the earth, and these people were members of the human race, and the chanting of Hare Krishna was the dharma of the age. Hare Krishna. Let's take a vote. So it's almost time for the curtains to close, which usually means that half the audience gets up and leaves. But we're told that the prasadam will not be served till 7:45. So let's take a vote. Should we stop now? Or should we go a little more? And those who wish to get up and stand online unnecessarily, I have no, I won't hold it against you. You're free to do that. So, walking back home in the early evening, past the shops and crowded tenements, followed by more than a dozen interested new people, like the Pied Piper. Everyone know the story of the Pied Piper? It's from the Middle Ages. He was like, of course, the ultimate destination was for no good, but the idea is that he played beautiful music and lured all of the children from the village to follow him. So we want to be Pied Piper and lead people to something very good, ultimately. Actually, many devotees back in there's one, Mekhala Devi Dasi, she was a very young lady, and she joined from Vishnu John Swami's Harinam in Los Angeles or San Francisco. In her own words, I just followed Vishnu John like the Pied Piper back to the temple, and I never left. The Swami again sustained occasional shouts and taunts, but those who followed him from the park were still feeling the aura of an ecstasy that easily tolerated a few taunts from the street. So if you see, like, there's so many mentally disturbed and crazy people on the streets in New York. We have to encounter them every day. They shout profanities and all kinds of things, you know. But I'm just, I guess by practice, I'm just impervious to it. I take it as a compliment. If you're on a higher mission, always, then those who have no mission, what to speak of on our lower mission, cannot faze you, even in the slightest. Prabhupada especially was undisturbed. As he walked with his head high, not speaking, he was gravely absorbed in his thoughts. And yet his eyes actively noticed people and places and exchanged glances with those whom he passed on his way along 7th Street, past the churches and funeral homes, across 1st Avenue to the noisy, heavily trafficked 2nd Avenue, then down 2nd, past liquor stores, coin laundries, delicatessens, past, it's still there, the Iglesia Alanzana Cristina Missionaria, Intercontinental Restaurant Palace, then past the Church of the Nativity, and finally back home to number 26. There was a crowd of people from the park standing on the sidewalk outside the storefront, and here the verbal imagery is just wonderful. Young people waiting for him to arrive and unlock the door to matchless gifts. So the pure devotee literally unlocks the door to Krishna consciousness, but also we are a trusted, not trustee or stakeholder, but key holder. This is the key to open 2nd Avenue right here. So they were waiting for Prabhupada to literally and physically unlock the door to 26 2nd Avenue. They wanted to know more about the dance and the chant and the elderly Swami and his disciples who had created such a beautiful scene in the park. They filled the storefront. So Prabhupada just walked to the park, walked back, chanted and danced, made a speech with no amplification for 5 or 6 hours, and now he's addressing the largest crowd that has ever frequented the storefront. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. We'll conclude by looking at the New York Times article that was shown to Prabhupada the next morning. Sound interesting? Okay. 5 or 10 minutes. It was early. Swamiji had not yet come down for class, and the sun had not yet risen. Satsvarupa and Kirtananda sat on the front of the storefront, the floor of the storefront, reading a clipping from the Morning Times. Has the Swami seen it? Yes, just a few minutes ago. He said it is very important. It's historic. He especially liked that it was the New York Times. Swami's flock chants in park to find ecstasy. 50 followers clap and sway to hypnotic music at East Side ceremony. Sitting under a tree in a Lower East Side park and occasionally dancing, 50 followers of a Hindu Swami repeated a 16-word chant for 2 hours yesterday. It was more than 2 hours. For 2 hours yesterday afternoon, to the accompaniment of cymbals, tambourines, sticks, drums, bells, and a small reed organ, repetition of the chant, Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta says, is the best way to achieve self-realization in the age of destruction. While children played on Hovings Hill, a pile of dirt in the middle of Tompkins Square Park. So if you see behind the tree, there's kind of like a little upgrade, and people lounge there. What is that? It's a joke named after the Parks Commissioner. So they just, anyway. Hovings Hill, a pile of dirt in the middle of Tompkins Square Park, or bicycled along the sunny walks. Many in the about 100 persons standing around the chanters found themselves swaying to and fro, clapping in time to the hypnotic rhythmic dance. So in detail, it describes everything that is said here. The Swami, a swarthy man with short cropped grayish hair and clad in a salmon-colored robe over a pink sweater, said that when he first met his own teacher, a guru, in 1922, he was told to spread the cult of Krishna in the Western countries through the English language. Therefore, in this old age, 71, I have taken so much risk. It says that they were going to come there and chant every Sunday. His followers include some social workers. I guess that's okay. I think this article will bring a lot of new people. So they were able to continue about 3 or 4 more weekends before it just got too cold. So Srila Prabhupada personally demonstrated how wonderful is Harinam Sankirtan when many people come together to chant the holy name of Krishna in public, inviting everyone to participate. And the more one participates in Harinam Sankirtan, the more Krishna will reveal to one how great and powerful he is in the form of his holy name, and how ultimately you'll be able to realize exalted statements in the scriptures that have been there for thousands of years, and realizations of great acharyas and spiritual masters and pure devotees in more recent times, in the last decades and hundreds of years, that actually this is the way to bring real peace to the world, to reorganize things so that those who are demoniac in nature will not have sway and control of this world in the major things that we all rely on: proper distribution of all necessary goods, commodities, and services, the way governments are organized, the way that the flow of human society goes, how people spend their time, how much they have to work, what type of work they have to do to keep their body and soul together, how their mind is to be occupied, what thoughts will be there, higher or lower thoughts. Everything is there by propagating the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Srila Prabhupada personally demonstrated that, and this is the 57th anniversary of the first Harinam Sankirtan here in the Western world. So we invite all of you, if you're free tomorrow, come to Tompkins Square Park. It'll be a little cooler, between like 58 and 61 degrees. If we told you that in January, you'd be rejoicing, but compared to what the summer is over, it's a little cooler. But I think it will be something very memorable and very, very sweet. And we're also doing Harinam Sankirtan every day anyway, and you're all invited to participate wherever we are, 3 to 7 every day, and on Saturday we try to do more. And we may be increasing it to 6 hours. There's someone coming from Vrindavan, and he's a Harinam enthusiast, and with his help, we might be able to get that done. Stay tuned for the text messages. Thank you very much for your kind attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Radha Ki Jai, Swanadi with Radha Jai Mine Bhagavad